Did you ever try to do a proper lean bulk, which means you were trying to put on muscle, but it actually ended up that you put a lot of fat together with very little muscle? If that's the case, in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 simple steps that absolutely guarantee that you do a lean bulk properly. So you put as much muscle as you possibly can without putting out a lot of fat. So let's go. What's up, everyone? This is Coach Amir from SevenFigureBody.com. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 simple steps that absolutely guarantee that you put on a lot of muscle without putting on a lot of fat. So step 1 is think of your calorie intake as the most important driver of how much body fat or muscle you put on. So meaning your diet has to be dialed in. And when we talk about how many calories you should be eating, the main thing here is everybody eats way too many calories when they're bulking. And that's why you've probably heard about the dirty bulk that the bodybuilders do, which is essentially for several months, usually during the off season in the winter, they eat everything. They basically eat 4 or 5, however many thousands of calories, and basically they put on a certain amount of muscle and a ton of fat. And then later on, they are trying to maintain that muscle while burning off the fat. Now, this is probably the best way in order to get maximum results for a professional steroid, like all the steroids in the world bodybuilder. But for us natural, people who don't use steroids and who are just, entrepreneurs looking to have a great looking, high performing, high energy body, we don't need to do that. The better way is to figure out exactly to do the opposite, right? So we reverse engineer the process and say, how much muscle can you actually build? Now we go back to one of the videos, I'll link it here, where I said, how much muscle can you actually naturally put on your body? And it comes down to, it's about 1 pound of muscle per month, up to maybe 1.5 pounds is about what somebody with really good genes who's just starting out to lift, that's how much they can build. So if you think about it, let's say for most people, it's going to be 1 pound of muscle per month when they're starting out. Later on, as you become more advanced, it's way less than that. But let's say 1 pound of muscle per month. Now, how many calories does it take to actually build 1 pound of muscle? 2,400 to 2,600 calories, depending on, what source you look at. So it's a very energy costly, process. So if you divide, 2,400 to 2,600 calories to 30 days of the month, you end up with, roughly like 80 to 90 calories, something like that. We can kind of round it up to under 100 calories per day. So that's exactly what your calorie surplus should be. Now, of course, this for a lot of people is like, oh, it's blasphemy. I am having a 700 calories deficit per, or a surplus when I'm trying to put on muscle. Yes, but that's why you put this much muscle and this much fat. So much better to actually, and then, later on you have to be on a diet for 6 months in order to burn all the fat. Much better to actually be in a very small surplus, like 100-ish calories. Maybe, if somebody's very genetically blessed and they're just starting out and they have everything properly dialed in, their food, sleep, and recovery and training is all, literally on point, maybe up to 2 pounds of muscle, even though per month, which would mean 200 calories, or actually less, 160, 180 calories a day surplus. But again, this is going to be 1 in a million individuals because I've never seen it yet. And I don't really know anybody who's, naturally gained 25 pounds of muscle in the first year of their proper lifting. Like that usually doesn't happen. Most people are going to be happy. Most men are going to be happy to get half of that. So like 1 pound of muscle per week is going to be more than good. For women, it's about half of that. Okay, so 1/2 pound of muscle per month. So for women, be like 40, 50 calories surplus a day, which essentially means be around maintenance because we can't really track calories to 40 calories a day, right? So be around maintenance, lift hard, and that's it. That leads us to step number 2, which is your training has to be on point. You should really be training hard. And when I say hard, I don't mean you should just add a lot of weight. Number 1, what I mean is your form should be absolutely perfect. You should focus on slower eccentrics. So your muscle is being elongated. So let's say you're doing, chest presses. On the way down is when you do slowly. So 2, 3, 4 seconds, squeeze, and then forcefully press up. If you're doing a squat, on the way down toward the floor, that's when your quads are being stretched out. That's what we're going to do slowly. So if you're squatting, go 1, 2, 3, fast on the way up. So concentric fast, eccentric slow, 3 to 4 seconds for all eccentrics. Also, proximity to failure is what builds muscle. So it's not about how much weight you put, is it light or heavy? It's, if you do lightweight with a lot of reps or heavyweight with low reps, it doesn't matter. You're gonna build the exact same amount of muscle as long as you come close to failure at the same level. So your training really has to be hard. So depending on where you are on a beginner, intermediate, and advanced lifter, where you are, what is your training age? If you're a beginner, you don't need to come anywhere near close to failure. It just needs to be challenging enough. So because, just the proper form is going to do like 90% of what you want as a beginner, which most people will fall into that. So make sure that your form is really, really, really good. Number two, if you are intermediate, in that case, maybe being 1 to 2 reps shy of failure is really, really good for most things, most exercises, because we're going to push it close to failure, and that's what actually triggers muscle growth. And then, of course, as an advanced lifter, it doesn't really matter. You just need to realize that it's just maintenance from that point on. Okay. So first thing is calories need to be proper and not too big of a surplus. Number two is train really, really hard. And then three, that goes along right after the training hard, is you have to recover properly. So you have to focus on reducing stress as much as you can and sleeping. Sleep is the most important, the most effective natural recovery tool we have. And almost everybody underutilizes this. It's pretty much, most underrated factor and part in this whole industry of health, building muscle, having a great body, being a highly productive, high energy person. Sleep or your recovery is absolutely key for that. So how much you should be getting? About 8 hours. Yes, we know some studies have shown that people, with 7 hours of sleep may even get enough, but this is probably for non-lifters, so people who don't lift weights, because when you're training really hard, you should be sleeping more than when you're training normally or not training at all. So for a lot of times, 8 hours a day is going to be at least what's needed to properly recover. Now, of course, not all of us can afford that, meaning we have small kids, we have businesses, families, everything else to do, but still neglecting sleep is a huge, huge, huge mistake, and I highly suggest you prioritize that over many other things. So, whether your protein comes from this or that, whether you are using organic or not organic food, whether you're in the gym using machines or barbells, all of these things are very, very, very small and bring a small, if any, difference in your results. So, number one, keep your calorie surplus appropriate. So basically 100-ish calories a day for most men, 50-ish calories for most women. So basically be around maintenance. Number two, train really hard. Number three, focus on sleep. A couple of things on sleep is the best thing that I can suggest is, even though there are many things you can do, is go to bed at the same time every night, wake up at the same time every morning. So have a routine that does not change on weekends, work days, it's always the same. So go to bed at the same time. It is good to not have screens, computers, phones, TVs, at least an hour, if not two, before going to bed. Also, another thing is I highly suggest reading a book. If you have trouble falling asleep, reading a book should get you to fall asleep. Also, 65 degrees is ideal temperature for sleep, and also make it pitch dark. So do blinds or whatever else you need to do in the house to make it absolutely pitch dark. Like if you do this, you can't even see your finger. That's how pitch dark it should be. It does promote better sleep. So guys, those are 3 things on how to properly do a lean bulk, which means put on as much muscle as you possibly can without putting on a lot of fat. And this, actually, when you do it this way, you can actually put a minimum amount of fat. Some fat probably is going to have to be coming with the muscle anyway, but it's much better if it's this much versus a lot of fat, because later on you have to spend so many months burning it off. So less fat gain, the better. So hope you guys liked it. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about this, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.